Hey guys, welcome to the Chloe D and Matt C Something Different podcast, where we talk about life and faith and how they intersect. Let's get into it. So, I was at a youth retreat, and one of my friends was talking about a book, and he's read it, and I'm working on it. I'm not a fast reader.
Okay.
I'm a slow reader. But one of the things he said that really intrigued me as to why I wanted to look at it was some statistics. Now, I do love statistics. Like,
Okay. You're a numbers guy.
I'm a numbers guy to a point. If it's got a sweet graph, like I'm a visual guy.
Yeah.
And so this book has some sweet graphs in it. So they're sad though.
Yeah.
But it helps me translate the information to me.
Yeah.
And so the book's called The Anxious Generation. And so check it out. Like, I think that's a good thing to go look at, because there is a generation that's growing up that does struggle with anxiety. I think anxiety is a common struggle for people. That some of that is just like a common struggle for all of us. But I think there is a generation that is more anxious. And this is one of the things that book's talking about. So I've just got some stats here. I took some pictures of his of the graphs in his book. So, talking about this study was done from the year 2010 to 2015. So that just kind of gives you an idea of when this was taking place. But among college students, there's a 72% increase in ADHD, which I think I see. I mean, I see that in just people I'm around. But also, there's a 108% increase since 2010 in depression among college students. And I mean, there's a couple of college students that I know, and I feel like, I don't know if that's an increased awareness of depression, or if that's like there's more depression.
Like, I do. Yeah.
Like
there is more.
Because
there is more. I don't necessarily know that it. You're saying, like, are we more depressed because we're aware?
No, I'm saying, are we not more depressed because we're aware? I'm saying, do we classify it as depression more now because we know what to call it?
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Which,
yeah,
I think that's some, but I do think that there is a lot more that are struggling with depression for other reasons. And then the last one that I want to share with you, at least there's actually several more, but in this one graph, there's a 134% increase in anxiety. And hence the name of the book, right? The Anxious Generation. And anxiety is an interesting thing, like to just think about. Like, so I found this one, again, interesting, because this is anxiety prevalence by age. So for ages 18 to 25, they found a 139% increase, which that's like a ton of increase in anxiety.
those just numbers are just so big.
Like that, and again, yeah, like that's huge. And then for those age 26 to 34, so I mean that your range, right? Okay. Is 103% increase. So in your friend group, do you see that? Like, it's nearly doubled. That anxiety has just like gone up. Maybe not as much as those that are younger, but in those that are your age. And then for those that are my age 35 to 49, it's gone up 52%. So I mean,
the numbers are
they're going down a little bit.
Down.
So 18 to 25 is 139. 26 to 34 is 103. 35 to 49, 52. And then those that are over age 50, they actually saw a decrease, an 8% decrease in anxiety. Now, all of that is about anxiety. And just think about, man, it's not just about an anxious generation. It's about an anxious world.
for sure.
That's just something that Now, maybe we need to go talk to our friends that are over 50 and say, like, what's the secret to, like, not being anxious? And then one final graph or stat. This is about emergency room visits that are a product because of self-harm, which I think that because when we feel anxious, there's some things that we choose to do to ourselves because we're desperate. And so for girls, well, let's start with boys. For boys, since 2010, that number has increased 48%.
Okay.
Hospital room or emergency room visits for self-harm. And then for girls, that number has gone up 188% since 2010. And so I know there's like a lot to throw at us, but I do think that it's important for us to like think about.
We need awareness over this.
Awareness of anxiety. And so, like, I guess, have you ever felt anxious?
Yeah. I don't feel like I struggle so much with anxiety.
Okay.
But I do know a lot of people who do.
Okay.
And I understand it, just given mental health, like as a whole.
Okay.
But I do know anxiety can cause depression, and anxiety can cause insecurities.
Okay.
I feel like they're kind of under the you know what I mean?
Do you feel like anxiety is the root of
Yes.
of a tree that we call
Yes.
mental illness? Maybe not all of them, but like
Yeah,
a common thread.
I personally do.
Okay.
Because, like, to me, like, when I think about my insecurities, I know that, like, the way I view it is that comes from an anxiety.
Okay.
Personally.
And again, this is not necessarily for you, but maybe for people you know also. What are things that make us anxious?
Well, I guess thinking about those stats, like, and it being higher in kids, I think that our children are exposed to a lot more now. And I know every generation said, you hear every generation say, well,
this generation. I mean, those guys.
Yes.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's different. It was a different time, and it's a different time now. Like, it was different for them just as much it is. But I do think that our children now are being exposed to things that they don't understand.
Okay, so they
Like,
just don't. They just not. They're.
You see things, but you
Okay.
don't know what you're seeing.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't understand it. Like, and I'm very guilty of this. TikTok, which I personally love TikTok. It took me a lot of years to love TikTok, but I love it now.
Okay.
I feel like it's less filtered.
Okay.
I feel like it's less managed. Like,
Okay, so it's like more
it's more freedom of speech.
more real.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion about it.
Okay.
Facebook will tell me to be quiet. TikTok doesn't.
Yeah.
But being a working mom, I a lot of the times needed Swayze just to be quiet so that I could work.
Yeah.
Because she was there with me.
Yeah.
So I would hand her the phone.
Okay.
And on the phone meant that she was on what was once called Musical.ly, which was for children, and then TikTok came over. And I mean, that's probably a whole plan,
Yeah.
But my mom calls it the devil, which I do to some degree agree with.
Yeah.
But our kids now have social media.
Okay, so
So-
you're saying social media is likely a big factor. Maybe not the reason.
Yeah, because
But
I
a
see
big-
good in social
But
media.
a big factor.
Yes. Like, I
Okay.
see the goods in it, and I appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
But I also see the negatives when it comes to our children. Just because of the exposure and the things that they're not really, like, for instance, comparing yourself.
Yeah.
Like, watching what somebody else is doing and then comparing your life.
And yeah, that kind of just builds on an inferiority, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you already are struggling with self-image, or already struggling with whatever. Mm-hmm. Depression, anxiety, just kind of the whole thing. And then that's just going to make it turned up a notch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any, do you struggle with any of those personally?
Yeah. I mean, my mom was a worrywart.
Okay.
I mean, that's what
Okay.
that's what we called it before. We called it anxiety.
Uh-huh.
And like, I inherited that. Mm-hmm. So I guess there's some component of it that is genetic.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe environmental also.
For sure.
Because, like, there are lots of things that make me anxious.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I was born an anxious child.
Yeah.
But, and of course, I've managed it different. I do think that technology especially when you're younger, can make it more difficult. Because, like what you're saying, the comparing thing, also being exposed to different things before
Before you're ready.
Mm-hmm. Like big feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Before you're ready.
Yeah.
And I think that is that's a big aspect of it. But it's not just kids.
No.
I mean, because the numbers went up for everybody except for those that were over 50.
Well, but I think that's why like us like kids, but you've got these adults, and I think where the adults are ahead is by learning. I also don't think that those adults, like, I didn't have social media in high school.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, social media didn't become a thing until we had MySpace.
Oh, man. Did you have a MySpace?
I did have a MySpace.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
And AOL Instant Messenger, but, like, we weren't watching the world.
Yeah.
Now we're watching the world.
Well, and then there's this push to, like, become YouTube famous or, whatever.
Yes.
And a lot of people, or some people, not a lot, some people have made that like a stream of income. And so there's some people that see like a future in that. And the truth is that's a very small percentage of people who are on social media and producing content for social media. And I think sometimes we allow ourselves to get pulled into, it's like this trap that's set. And yeah, I'm not saying that social media is bad. There's a lot of great stuff out there.
I agree.
I mean, eventually this episode of the podcast is going to be on social media.
Yeah.
And we hope that people listen to it.
Yes. Yeah, but I do think the difference is the 50-year-olds are kind of watching it on the sidelines, where the 10-year-olds are in it. We didn't grow up with that, so you
grew up with technology, though.
Yeah, I grew up with technology, but not the technology that we have now.
Yeah. Like, I remember the first cell phone we got was when Crystal and I lived in Hawaii before we were married. And that was, like the year 2001 or so. And then you just think, like, how technology has changed the way we interact. Like, I remember, like, doing I'm going to make a collect call and calling my parents and say your first, well, maybe you don't know. They said, say your first name or, like, tell your name. And it's like, Matt, I'm safe.
Yeah.
And I would call my parents collect to let them know that I made it.
Yeah.
And I would say my name was Matt. I'm safe.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Well, in the pagers, I'm not of that time.
Yeah.
I mean, like pagers were still a
pagers,
thing, but
and I mean, like fire departments still have them. But
yeah. Yes.
I
It's
love
like
it. But yeah, so technology's totally changed to where we also have instant access. Not just to social media.
no, everything.
To everything. And I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing.
I would agree with you on that.
Because if I have an impulse,
I can act on that.
I can act on it right then. And it can lead me down a deep, dark hole that can lead to anxiety or depression or...
Yeah. See, like my phone gives me anxiety. It really does.
Okay.
I really feel...
Because it's like, it's
It's constant.
okay.
It never stops. And like...
So how do you manage that?
I really just ignore it, truthfully. No,
Okay.
I mean, but I'm not very consumed in it. For me, like I kind of check out of it
Okay.
because of my feelings towards it.
Do you
Like,
think
I have
that's
some
just
negative.
a maturity? Like I think it's sometimes funny to call ourselves mature because I feel like we're not very mature.
Yeah.
But do you think that's a maturity over your daughter and over those that are, just now going into college and those that are getting out of college and starting their career? Is it just you're further along in your journey and so you feel like you're more able or willing
Yeah.
to just check out of it?
Yeah. Probably so. 'Cause like I am very active on social media as far as like my business goes, but I'm very not active on social media, if that makes sense.
Okay. So like it's a tool for you. It's not
But I'm not consumed by it.
yeah, I was trying to think of what so it's a tool, it's not your community.
No. No.
Because I think that's one thing that has happened is that, and I mean, I feel like this is to like beat up the iPhone or beat up not iPhone, Android, whatever. It's like beat up technology day, but I think that the way you combat anxiety is the community that you keep. And sometimes we just need people.
For sure.
Like,
For sure.
we need flesh and blood. Like, connecting to somebody on my phone is not the same as connecting to somebody in person. And I think when I'm having those big feelings, I need a person.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. I'm extrovert. So I feed off of people. That is where I get my energy.
Well, I'm an introvert. I still need people.
Yes, we do. But God has designed us to need people.
Yeah.
So it's normal. But to me, my people are not on a screen.
Yeah.
Like they are, and I'm going to give it a pro. I think it's so cool that if I want to get on there and look and catch up on people's lives, I can.
Absolutely.
And from different stages of life. Like, I think that is such a beautiful thing that I'm
going to give the negative on it in just a second.
Okay,
I'm holding
okay.
on to it. That's what that face was.
But I don't like that Facebook pushes, like it notifies me when someone does this or someone does this or, that to me is ugly.
Okay.
Or it can be ugly. Like
Yeah.
I can feel ugly about it. Like when I see that thing, like it can cause a reaction or a negative or a jealousy or, like I'm like, so-and-so commented on this. And it's like, why am I mad about that? But I am.
Okay. Why do I have some emotion?
Yeah. Why am I emotional
Why
towards
does this
this?
even matter?
No, because it shouldn't.
Okay.
Like, I feel like I'm a girl's girl and like I love women. I love women bosses. They're my favorite. And I want to But then I'm also like for instance, in my industry, we're supposed to be faithful to each other, but I'm not faithful in my industry. Like, I use a lot of different people for a lot of different things.
Okay.
You know, and it's like, I feel like I should promote more and sell more and tell more, but I don't, because I'm like, I don't want to offend somebody else over here.
Okay.
You know, like, it's like you feel like you're
So
kind
it's
of...
like politics is mixed into it.
Yes, and it
Okay.
shouldn't be that way, because I don't feel that way.
Okay.
Like, I have lots of salon owner friends.
Yeah.
I support all salon.
Yeah.
I don't support all salons, but naturally
the
I
industry
want
of-
to. Yes.
The industry of it.
I am not in competition with any salon
You know,
or any person.
I think that sometimes I can start to resent others because their Instagram pictures are always beautiful and they're always doing ministry to the impoverished, and they are lovely 100% of the time. And I know that's not true, but
social media portrays that.
but that's how I'm connected to them, is all their perfect moments.
Yeah.
And kind of like you, I think that I got a lot more in common with people than I have indifference.
Yeah.
Indifference.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things we can get into when we feel resentment or inferiority, so both sides of that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we can start tearing other people down. So somebody puts a picture out there, and this is terrible, that people get so judgy about stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're ugly. Why would you even do that? And then, like, how does that make somebody feel? And then, like, like, we treat people through the screen in a way we would never treat them to their face. Mm-hmm. Like, we say horrible things to one another. And so why is anxiety such a big deal? I think that speech matters.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all about, like, you have the right to say whatever you want to
Yes.
say.
I agree. Even if it's negative
Even
to
if
me.
it's
if
negative.
it's your truth.
But I think those things should be said to someone's face.
I agree.
Like, there should be,
I 1,000% agree.
Because there's accountability when it's a face-to-face conversation. That even if that person's not there, like, another person accountable, so that, like, say, now, it's a little harsh.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I wouldn't turn it up to 11. Just me. Like, and I'm a little bit old school on that. Like, I believe that most conversations that are difficult should be conversations we don't have through text message.
I agree with that.
Because you unless you're really good friends.
Yeah, depends on the...
Text message is so hard. But...
it depends on the dynamic of...
especially a hard conversation, it's so hard to tell tone.
For sure.
And compassion. Because I can say something difficult to somebody face to face, and they know that I'm hurting saying it. Where if they just read it, then all they have to go by is what they feel. And they think, I'm feeling they're terrible.
Yeah. Like, at least
I'm putting that on somebody else, and that's probably not fair, but that's the way I've received things.
Yeah, it to me, I like try to evaluate the person and how they're, who they are, kind of. And so I do have to, like, one of my sister-in-laws, I get offended by her text messages because she's short.
Okay.
But if you have a phone call with her, she's not. You know what I mean? So I've had to, like...
learn,
like, she's not being rude. she's just short.
She being direct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it's not a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of short myself depending on what the matter is.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Gotcha.
I can do that too. But it can cause an anxiety for us. You know, like, if you have a serious conversation through a text message, like, it's like that instant, or the text, we need to talk.
Oh,
I hate that one. I hate that one.
Like,
and I don't do it to people because I don't like it.
Oh man, that one's like, we need to talk, because then your mind goes a million places.
All the places. It's like, let's talk right now. I want to talk right now. Like you're going to make me wait?
Like,
Yeah.
about what?
Yeah.
Like, could you give me a little hint?
Uh-huh.
At least point me in the direction we need to have the talk about.
Yeah.
So, like, Paul said in the book that he wrote to the letter that he wrote to the Philippian church, he said, don't be anxious about anything. Mm-hmm. Which that's like, if he said don't be anxious about most things, I'd be like, right on. But he said don't be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication or petition, let your requests be made known to God.
Okay.
So, how do we combat, or how do we remedy anxiety?
I guess, I mean,
According to Paul, it involves a lot of prayer.
That's what I'm like. It is prayer, because I think the devil wants us to worry.
Okay.
I think that's where that comes from.
Okay.
And I do, like, channeling into communicating with God does remove that anxiety.
Okay.
Or can help the anxiety. Because I'm like, it's not going to be removed, because we are humans by nature. Our instincts are human. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
These statistics are, I mean, this is real life. So
Yes.
this is where people are dealing in the real life. And I don't know that it's just going to, like, make their chart go.
No, because it's something we're going to, as long as
we got phones, which we've been talking a lot about social media, but as long as we got phones, and as long as we have problems,
we're still going to have
we're going to have struggle.
For sure. It is, I think we're going to forever have struggles, like, God gave us He gave us that choice.
Well, and I mean,
not that choice.
I mean, that was don't be anxious about anything was written, like, nearly 2,000 years ago. So obviously they're struggling with anxiety, maybe in a different way, in a different sense than we are today, or about different things. But that was something they struggled with.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I love too, is that when I read the Bible, is that I go, these people are real.
Yes. Well, these people are going through these same things that we were.
This is a common human experience.
Yes.
And so how do we deal with this common human experience so now I don't have to feel like I'm terrible, no good, very bad?
Yeah. And I do say this all the time. I do love the awareness of this generation.
Now that's true. I do think those numbers are higher because we go, I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling tender, or I'm feeling depressed, or
My granddad would have just buried it.
Yes, and would have. I mean,
and it's
for most guys would have responded in anger.
Yes,
because that's how we express emotions we don't know how to deal with.
Yes, and I call it a sharp tongue. He was the sweetest person in the entire world, but he had a sharp tongue. And that sharp tongue can hurt feelings. Yeah. And, like, it's like you think to yourself, maybe if you would have had some more awareness, could you have worked on that? Or, you know what I mean? Like, for instance, me, myself, I know that I have insecurities.
Okay.
And I do think that that's a form of, anxiety.
Yeah.
I struggle with some insecurities, and I can get triggered, and those triggers will cause me to be very hateful. And I can say some very passive-aggressive, hateful things.
Okay.
And that's an ugly quality.
Which can become a cyclical thing, right? Like, so the people that you're being passive-aggressive toward, or the people that you're being hateful toward, like, that can cause something in them. And so then, like, all of a sudden, we're just like, this is a very visual, the terrible visual, but we're just puking on each other.
For sure.
And it's just like
it's cause and effect. It's cause and effect.
We're just having this. It's just having this terrible effect on everybody.
Yeah. Well, because it does affect everybody.
It does, absolutely. What we do affects other people.
Yeah, my personality is so, I've got a big personality, and my energy is big too.
Yeah.
And I know this about myself. I can suck the life out of a room easily just by my
fun sponge.
By my demeanor.
That's what my kids call me.
But it has no
Because they're fun.
Yeah. I mean, but really, and it's like there's no poker face.
Okay.
I'm not a fake it till I make it kind of person.
Yeah, I hear you.
I genuinely struggle with that, and
I wish I had a good poker face.
yeah, I don't. You know what I feel.
Yep.
You see it. And I'm like, well, that's a good thing. At least you know where I stand. And I'm like, no, that's not always the best thing.
Yeah.
So awareness, and like I said, brain work. Like it's like. I had to do some brain work yesterday where I had to get inside of my head and say, shut up. Okay. Shut up.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
you don't always, I do feel like I always have to say something. Like I've got to beat it.
Okay.
And that's not always the right approach depending on the person you're dealing with.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to be patient.
But it's an ugly quality, and it's a quality that I do believe comes from the devil. The devil tells me...
It's a quality anything taken to excess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? It's not in moderation. Because there is a time to speak up. Mm-hmm. And there's a time to be silent. Mm-hmm. And both of those are valid.
For sure. For sure.
Because it's just like anything, like if we always spoke up, no one would be listening. Mm-mm. So there's time for both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, no, I guess it's just, it is really cool to see, like I do think we're getting, and on the podcast I was listening to the other day, they were talking about, he was just talking about how some of those numbers, some of those stats have gone up because we do have more access and knowledge now. We're exposed to more, and because of that means we're checking on things more than they would have in the past.
Absolutely.
And so the numbers are higher because we're doing
there's
things
contributing
different.
factors. And I think it's important to look at not just like one aspect of the contributing factors, but there are a multitude of contributing factors. One is the environment in which these kids are and adults are in.
Yeah.
And the other is the knowledge that we have. And another is the language that we have to use, that we have to grab from. Because now we talk about, well, does this kid have ADHD? When before, they would just say, "Oh, he's just a boy," and that's not all wrong.
But I'm like, I do think that the term can apply to like everybody can have it.
Absolutely. I'm just saying. Like,
I think it's a little misdiagnosed.
Well, I probably would have been diagnosed as a young kid.
Yes.
Because I was overly active.
Yes.
But my teachers worked with me, and I mean my mom worked with me a lot, and I played outside a lot. I mean, I don't want to be like one of those guys like, well, when I was a kid, but really, truly, like when we got home from school, we didn't have tons of homework.
Yeah.
Like, we gave our mom a hug and a kiss. We might have had a snack. And then we were outside until dark. And then, like, she would literally turn on the porch light so that we knew we were supposed to come in.
Yeah, it's time.
Or if we weren't near the house, when the street lights came on, you were supposed to come home. So lights coming on was a sign that it's too dark to be outside. You need to be inside. And so we were literally outside. And I think that maybe that's part of it, is that we're not using big muscle movement either.
Yeah, I would agree.
especially in boys. I think I'm not trying to say girls. I mean, I'm not trying to say that girls don't need that.
No, I get what you're. I
different.
understand what you're saying.
Boys are
Not
different.
offended by that.
But also, I think it's important what we allow ourselves to think about. Mm-hmm. Like, this is all in our brain.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what we're talking about. What's in our brain.
It is. It is. It's our own intrusive thoughts.
And so it's like, if all we say is don't be depressed, the only thing we're thinking about is depression. Uh-huh. If we say don't be anxious,
then we're
and that's the only thing we say is don't be anxious, the only thing we're thinking about is anxiety.
Yeah.
And so I think that's some of it too, is these things have become so intrusive in our world that we think about nothing else but these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that right before the Bible says don't be anxious, it says rejoice in the Lord. Mm-hmm. And I'll always say it again, rejoice. Mm-hmm. And then right after it says don't be anxious, it says think about things that are lovely and pure and good and praiseworthy. And so it's important what we let ourselves think about, because our thoughts will become actions.
For sure. They will. Absolutely.
It starts in our mind.
It does.
I think that's probably right. I didn't take any psychology classes, but just for me, it's always started in my brain.
Yeah.
Even those impulsive actions did start in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was just a real short time between brain and action.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I do enforce, like, I encourage positives.
Okay.
So, like, if I hear that you're struggling with these things, and sometimes I wish that I could clone myself so I could like actually, because do more. I'm like, it would be so cool to like actually help you through that journey, because I'm telling you, do this. I'm saying do this, but like that's not always easy to do. And sometimes you just need somebody to hold your hand. And that goes back to community. You know, like, is your circle good? Is your community good?
Man, yeah. Like, I got a group of friends I meet with that are struggling or recovering addicts.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we talk about is if you keep walking around the same old hole, you're going to end up falling in.
For sure.
And so you got to change your people, places, and things. And
well, and it does make me sad. It does make me sad when people don't have that. When I know that they don't have that, because I'm like, I have it, and I'm so thankful to have it. But not everybody does, and it just hurts my feelings,
Yeah, it does. I want people to know their love. I've been down that. Like I've been down the depression road, still walking the depression road, and I've learned a few things. And I would love to be able to like share that with people that are struggling with depression. But you like, until you're ready, you can't hear it. It's just like you got the music turned up too loud and you can't hear somebody else talk.
Yeah. Well, I hear you. I hear what you're saying, but it has no feeling to me.
Yeah, it has little to no effect. Now, does that mean we shouldn't say things to people?
Absolutely. No, we should say.
Should still say, because it's a Chinese proverb, I believe. And it's let's see how it goes. It says that I can't make truth grow in your life. All I can do is place truth on your heart, so that when it breaks, it's the first thing that falls in, so that it grows.
Yeah.
And so, like, I can't make you receive the truth.
No.
But I can be there.
Yeah.
And I can be a friend to those that are struggling with anxiety or depression or, insecurity. And I think it's something that we all, at some level or point, struggle with.
For sure. Absolutely.
In our own way.
I don't think
in our own
yeah,
way.
yeah. I don't think we go unscathed in things. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I always say we all got our vice and we all got our struggles. And I also say we all have two sides. We have a good and we have an ugly.
Yeah.
And everybody's ugly is different.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, my ugly may not look like yours and yours may not look like mine. It's just different, like within us. It's the different demons we fight with, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, awareness is great and shedding awareness and, you know, like you said, speaking the truth. 'Cause like, you may not, like you said, you may not hear it right now, but I feel for the most part, when you are honest with people, people remember that.
And had a powerful experience once where someone, like, I'm someone that has a pretty small personal bubble, but somebody got inside of my personal bubble.
Yeah.
And, like, locked on my eyes, which that made me uncomfortable already. I'm already, like, looking away, and they're like, no, look. Like,
look at me.
Look at my face. And they said, like, you are loved, and you matter. You are good. And they just said all these positive words.
Yeah.
Like, that are, like, that's, like, people need to hear that.
They do. They do.
And I think that one of the reasons we struggle with anxiety and depression is we hear, like, the music's turned up so loud we can't discern anything. And what we need to do is we need to learn to turn down the other volumes and listen to the good. And maybe one of the ways that we can do that for people that are real close to us is we can say the good we see in them.
Yeah. Praise is necessary.
Praise is necessary. It's important. And I think it helps battle those negative feelings, emotions, and demons that we face.
Yeah. Acknowledging the good in everyone, because there is good in everyone.
There is. In everybody, there is something that is good.
Yeah.
And
I don't believe that everybody wants to just, I don't know.
Maybe there's some, but
yeah, I do
very
think there
few.
are some, but I know more than not. I don't think you want to, like, feel the way you do. Those, you know what I mean? Like,
I remember in my depression, I was miserable. Like, it wasn't like, oh, yes, we're going to have a depressed day.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I hated myself.
Yeah.
Like, that was, like, that's when you start thinking about suicide and stuff like that. I mean, honestly, because you just feel terrible and you think the world would be better off without you, and those that are close to you would be better off if you weren't there pulling them down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's not true.
No, but it's so, I just get so sad. I get so sad for people to feel that way. You know what I mean? Like, that's a sad feeling.
It is. There's a reason it's called depression. Because it is. I mean, it makes you so low. It makes you have such a low image of yourself that you feel worthless.
Yeah.
But every person was created by God. On purpose. For purpose. Like, every person.
Yeah.
And I think we forget that. And we need, like you said, we need somebody to remind us of that. And I think that even though we are in a very connected time, we're in a very isolated time. Because people can say, oh, you're great. But someone, like, literally saying that to you can be so much more, again, it's like having that difficult conversation with someone. Like there's different tones and stuff like that. Like someone, like you can sense sincerity
For sure.
in people,
Absolutely.
and it can turn the volume, like that one person who got in my face and in a good way.
Yeah.
And it just turned the volume up on what they were saying so that I could hear it above all the other noise.
Like God opened your heart to it.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we're going to need to do another talk on this.
Yeah.
Just this is something that, and it's a big.
It's a big beast.
It is, but it's like there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But I think it is something that we all deal with, or know someone that truly does deal with this in a very severe capacity. But I do think that, I mean, like, being joyful.
Finding your positives. You have to find a positive.
And dwell on that.
Yeah.
Don't dwell on all this.
It's like, hey,
negativity.
like I feel this way, but I don't know why I feel this way. So I'm going to change my thought to where I can deal with this. Because your mind is so powerful.
It is, and you can train your brain to think different. That's the crazy thing is like you're not stuck.
No, you don't have to stay that way.
It may be difficult
Yeah,
to create new paths.
absolutely.
But it's possible. And it just takes time. And you got to be patient and faithful over time.
Yes.
And have good people around you helping you
Do better.
along the way. Think better and do better. I think that, well, a little bit shorter than the last one, but
We'll talk more.
we'll talk more next time. Maybe this is just the warm up. I don't know.
Yeah, it was the warm up. We can dig into it further because it is. I took my nails off while we were sitting here.
Well, were you anxious about that?
No. But usually I think that that's what it is. But one popped off, and then it was just game over.
Okay.